eternal and loving present here within us. Bless this moment in this sacred space. Bless this time together and allow this beautiful power of strength to rise up within us. Let it wrap around us and help us to tune in to this highest self. Let us remember that we are always in the oneness. We ask that all that needs to be said, all that needs to be heard. And then we trust. And let us lean into this journey together. For what is here in this room is sacred. Take a breath with me. And so it is. Amen. Amen, amen. It has been a good morning, has it not?
Yes.
I mean, there's some good energy going on in here. Thanks for bringing it. It's been great. I've noticed a theme with the music. There's a lot of sun. I love that. Who doesn't need more sun on February 2nd? Groundhog's Day. Yeah, Groundhog's Day, yeah. So if I'm living this for the 5th time, it still feels new for me. So here we are. You know, I came back from vacation last week, and I felt rejuvenated, but I was a little under the weather. I made some mistakes. I was a little rusty. That was great. Good thing I don't take myself too serious. But today I feel totally in that just resonating energy of rejuvenation and just feeling refreshed. And so I just want to drink in the faces that are here for a minute. I wish you could have this view. It is so beautiful. So beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Today we are starting a new book series. So I went on vacation. I took this guy with me, and I thought, doggone it, I got to talk about this. It is by a gentleman, Matt Kahn, who I've known, well, who I've been aware of. I don't know him, but who I've watched for several years. He's got a couple books out, but this book is called The Universe Always Has a Plan, The 10 Golden Rules of Letting Go. And so we're going to be following some of this for the speaking series. And it's interesting. It's interesting what he brings to the table. And it's not for the, let's see, it's something you'll need to lean into the power of strength for, I believe. And so we'll get started with that. You know, Matt Kahn has just a beautiful way of speaking about living the way of oneness, and living from the unity principles. You know, the principle of God is all there is. God is our source, and that we are of God. And so as an essence of this divinity, we are inherently good and in cahoots together. And so I really appreciate his work for that undercurrent that is always present. And so the first chapter of this book, he poses a very bold statement. He says, you've done nothing wrong. You've done nothing wrong. Take a breath. You've done nothing wrong. Well, if that's true, and you've done nothing wrong, here's what's probably happening for a lot of us. We're sitting here, we're trying to hear it, and all of a sudden our lovely ego is like, are you serious? I don't think she knows me. I've done some things wrong in my life. And surely if I haven't done it, that person has definitely done some wrong things in their life. I mean, come on. There's the wrong things happening. Have you seen our political climate? Have you seen our nation? There are some things going wrong here and there, you know. So it's a bold statement to actually put into this, into our consciousness, you've done nothing wrong. You've done nothing wrong. So many of us are launching into different things like, well, here's the litany of all the things I've done wrong. Right away, you know, people are building arguments so they can stay in that thought pattern, right? It is a practice pattern. This isn't the first time you've had an experience where your mind goes, well, let me just tell you what's wrong. And if it is, I think you'd be on the ceiling right now if you've never had that experience. Oh, looks like it's all of us. Right now, your ego is rearing up its head to remain in charge. Have the audacity to be still with it right now. You've done nothing wrong. The ego can be very convincing, and yet, here's a nugget of great wisdom. The ego isn't wrong either. The ego is just being the ego. Nothing's wrong. How many, you don't have to raise your hand, how many are experiencing being a little untethered by this? Yeah. Because we as in our ego self, we definitely have run this practice of what's wrong. In some ways, it's what the ego does to protect us. But there's some method to the madness of looking at life from the perspective of you've done nothing wrong. Matt Kahn says, in order to keep itself well-fed by inner judgment and self-criticism, the ego views itself through the lens of faults and flaws. This is a really great litmus test to who is leading the thought brigade in your mind. If you are thinking in criticism, looking for flaws, pointing out what's wrong, if you are comparing and thinking, well, if only I was this way, I'd be better. If only this was different, it'd be better. If you were thinking in that way, there's nothing wrong with that. You're just thinking from ego. And that's good information to have. Because as soon as you understand that, information becomes an empowerment to choice. And so when you understand that's where your thoughts are, you have the information and a choice to shift your perspective. We have definitely talked about it here, but hopefully you know that you are definitely way more than your ego. Yes? The ego is an aspect of who you are. And that ego has a strong perspective. And most of us carry it all the time. It's part of being human. And there's nothing wrong with that. But Matt Kahn goes on to explain what the ego regrets in outcome, the soul rejoices in opportunity. What the ego regrets in outcome, the soul rejoices in opportunity. Another way to say that is, have you ever had a problem arise in your life and go, ooh, look at the opportunity? Have you ever just sat there and thought, when a problem arises, how many times do you just go into this full sense of rejoice? I've got a flat tire, woo! Yeah. Here comes the opportunity. You know, you're sitting and you're with your spouse or a family member, and they are on your absolute very last nerve. In fact, they're kind of jumping on it like a trampoline, and you're just like, I can't. And how many of us go into the space where we're like, whew, look at the opportunity for me here. Look at it. I can't wait to see what information comes up next. Yeah, or you're in a space of struggle with a coworker, you feel disrespected, or you feel like it's just a negative environment. And do you say, as one of your first responses, what is the opportunity here for me? You know? It seems funny because it's so different and dissonant. And I really love dissonant humor, so thank you for laughing. But I just feel like it's such an interesting space that this is our ego saying something's wrong. And then we go down this rabbit hole of what's wrong, and it just keeps building on itself. And then the ego's like, all right, well, then let's at least solve it. if we can flesh out everything that's wrong, then maybe we can solve it. How are we doing on solving it? Yeah. So then there's an invitation from your soul that is saying, hey, there's something to be had here. There is an opportunity. It links back to this sense of the universe, and that the universe is conspiring for you. That what is happening here in the problem is happening for you. It's happening for you. And what this does in so many ways is like, oh, Natalie, I really have serious things. I really do. And I don't doubt that. I have definitely heard and witnessed, just in my own life, I'll just speak for me, serious things where that's hard. You don't want to be flippant with this, with those words. But there is a opportunity here. There is a gift here. That when you ask yourself this question or pose this statement of you've done nothing wrong, you have an opportunity to slip behind the defenses of the ego and enter into your soul. You can slip behind the defenses of your ego and meet your soul. And your soul is there saying, ooh, this is some good stuff. It's so juicy. I love it. Let's get into it. And when, in my life, when I meet a problem, say there's a disagreement, someone is disagreeing with me, totally allowed, right? For sure. But my ego is busy defending. And boy, does she have some good practice. I mean, if she was a tap dancer, she'd be all over the stage. It would be great. She knows how to defend. In fact, just this weekend, someone was asking me about I don't even know if it was asking about defenses, but they were talking about things you know about yourself. One of the things I know about myself is that I use words to defend myself, and I had for a long time. In fact, I was joking with Julie about how she's like, can you believe this person said something? I go, oh, did you say this? Did you say that? Well, I said this. And sometimes it's like funny with just a sting of backup. Does that make sense? And we use our words in this way often. But what happens then is that we stay so committed and distracted by the argument. And as soon as you pose the statement, you've done nothing wrong, there's an opportunity to go beyond the distraction of the argument, to go beyond that and see what is here for us. And I've been the minister here for 5 years now. And I don't know how much you know about being a minister, but it is my jam. I love it. But also, being a minister has plenty of opportunities to be invited to the argument. To be invited to, well, prove this or do that. And what I have realized in this time of me growing up as a minister a bit is that every time I allow my ego to have its response, but I don't stop there, and I take this opportunity to look at what is here for me, shift happens. Beautiful shift happens. And so that's why I just absolutely wanted to disrupt the ego today. I wanted to get in there and just be a disruptor to the thought brigade. I call it the thought brigade. Has anyone ever experienced their thoughts where it's like, this thought leads to this thought, leads to this thought, and you get someone, like maybe you even wake up in the morning, you're like, oh, this again. And you have to do this, and you keep repeating those thoughts. And so having a disruptor is a really beautiful spiritual practice, because it does give you that opportunity to tune back into your soul. So when you realize that you are in this place of complaint, or in this place of this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, when you're really spending your time looking at the faults and flaws, this is an invitation for you to just recognize that. And when you do, remember you have a choice of this perspective. And you have a choice to lean into and to move into, and just invite your soul in. Say, soul, show me what's here for me. Show me what's here for me. You know how powerful of a community we are? And do you know how powerful a spiritual practice of a community would be? If instead of looking out and saying, this is wrong, I gotta fix it, this is wrong, I gotta fix it, that we understood there's nothing wrong, and therefore we are engaged in our soul, and therefore we move into this beautiful shift. So I know you've probably heard this already, I'm not saying anything new, but all of life is an inside job. All of life is an inside job. And so when we go to meet our soul, when we make that choice, we're going to shift perception. We're going to move into the soul. One of the greatest ways to do that is to simply state your name with the most love you can conjure, with the most self-compassion that you can have, with the kindest of words. So I want to try that with you now. You don't have to say your name out loud. You can if you want. But I want you to state your name as if God is stating your name with the utmost love. Say it now.
Larry.
I want you to say it again. Say your name with the most love, energy you can conjure.
Larry.
I want you to take a moment to think about how you love yourself and what it would mean if the voice within you started with this self-compassion. If it started with this kindness. What if that was the priority of the voice within your head? And then I invite you to, in your head, say your name, and then repeat this bold statement. Natalie, sweet Natalie, you've done nothing wrong.
Larry, you've done nothing wrong.
This is a spiritual practice. Saying your name with as much love and kindness and compassion as you can. And then asking or telling yourself you've done nothing wrong. Now trust and believe. There is no place or way that I think you are going to not be or be excused from being accountable for actions. You are, we all are. But there is power in you've done nothing wrong. In fact, if you can just create a little space between you and what you think you've done wrong, your soul will meet you there. Your soul will rise up within you and start to shift you into self-compassion, into this deeper love. In fact, it'll start to shift you of being more and more free of the narrative we've been saying, of the litany of things we've done wrong. How free would you be if you've done nothing wrong? That what you have done has brought you to this now moment. What you've been experiencing has been here for you all along. What would that free in you? You don't have to have the answer today. Today I'm simply posing the spiritual practice. You know, when I think about this country and the outpicturing of what we see, there's divisiveness. We're telling a narrative of separation that is fueled by, look at this guy, he's doing wrong. Look at those people, they're doing wrong. And so when we play that game, we stay in that narrative. But when I place the statement, you've done nothing wrong, into the mix, I'm not putting on rose-colored glasses. I'm not pulling on a cape of complacency. Not at all. Everything's an inside job. Disrupting this ego pattern is activating something much bigger. When you interrupt that pattern, you are activating an untouchable revolution within. A revolution that has power to restore love and compassion as our priority. This is the revolution of going within. Imagine a society that knew themselves. Let's start here. Let's start here. Let's know who we are in our own divinity. You've done nothing wrong. Your soul meets you every time with a deep compassion. Your soul will remind you that you are in the oneness and that everything is happening for you. In the oneness, the shift of one affects the all. In the oneness, the shift of one affects the all. What I'm saying, to be very plain about it, is that if you shift within to the highest compassion, you empower me to shift within with the highest compassion. If our dedication was shifting into that highest love, shifting into that highest compassion, that we carried it within us with such a strength that it became contagious, you are powerful. You are powerful as one, and you are powerful as the oneness. So there is a serious invitation on the table for you today. There is an invitation to become part of this revolution of going within and meeting your soul. With going within and meeting yourself with the deepest of love and compassion. So this week, I invite you to sit with this statement. I invite you to say your name 3 times with the most love and compassion and kindness that you can conjure. And what's interesting about this is the more you do it, the more loving, sweet things you'll think to say to yourself. The more you do it. And so I ask you to say your name 3 times and then make this bold statement, you've done nothing wrong. And then just be still. And then as the ego rears up and is like, wait a minute, no. Just simply say, hello, ego, I see you. And let it be. Just let it be. I invite you to meet yourself with the greatest compassion, kindness, and love that we may create shift within ourselves, which we know and trust in the absolute truth of oneness will help the rest access it themselves. What would it mean for you if you truly lived by that? You've done nothing wrong. That you met each struggle with, what is the opportunity? If you truly leaned into, this is happening for me right now. I'm excited to see what happens. I'm excited. So thank you for that. And I want you to join me next week as we explore the true nature of forgiveness and how this understanding leads you to your highest self. So I can't wait for you to go out today, to go out this week and take this spiritual practice with you. Just be open. You don't have to control it. I have one quick story about control. I've had about 8 stories this week alone. One involved pulling a hamstring. I'm not going to go into that. So I have this fence in my backyard, and I was trying to get it replaced, and I had it replaced in the fall. And unfortunately, the person who put it in just went to Home Depot and got the fence panel, and it was not treated. And the fence panel literally started to bend like balsa wood. I was like, did he just rob a airplane model kind of store and put up a fence with this wood? Literally, it got wet and it began to bend. So I was like, well, I got to replace that again. You know, it's frustrating, right? You try to control a situation, you try to get the job done right, and it's not. What's the opportunity, Natalie? I'll tell you, that happened in November. Here we are, it's February. Well, what happened is that where I'm from, Toledo, Ohio, the rectory is getting rid of their fence. And my mom sees it on Facebook, calls them up, and then they say, oh yeah, the fence is yours. You can have it for free. What? So the universe showed up and it added to my supply. And I replaced my fence with something way better, and it's beautiful. So here's the thing. You've got to remove it, and you've got to store it until it can be put back in the spring. Well, this is an hour and a half away. So I got on my network. I called every cousin I have. I called some friends up. I had it all orchestrated. I was like, I'm so proud of me. I got this under control. I'm going to be there on Thursday night. We're going to do this. On Wednesday, the maintenance guy calls me. He goes, you know what? I had some time. I just started taking down the fence. I was like, oh, well, that's helpful. And in my mind, it was going to be these panels, like 8-foot panels of fence, right? And he's like, here, I'll show you a picture. And he sends me a picture, and it's just 100 slats on the ground. And I went, I'm losing control here. Okay, all right. So pivot, right? You just pivot. You got to figure it out. So I call back all the people. I call them all back. I tell them what's happening. So this person shows up and this person shows up, and I'm like, okay, I'll be there tomorrow. Well, I had other things going on, and I was in a space where I couldn't use my phone very well, and I was like, okay, it's gonna work, it's gotta work. And wouldn't you know it, that without my control, all these people went rogue and helped me out. All these people showed up and picked up hundreds and hundreds of slats. They're not heavy, but it's laborious, you know? And they moved it from Toledo to Ottawa, which is a 10-mile, in 4 truckloads. And I thought, look at all the stuff you tried to control, Natalie. And look at how looking for the opportunity allowed you to just accept it. And you know the story in my head, this connection back to you've done something wrong? The story in my head was, well, I've done something wrong because I should have been there. I'm the one that's going to benefit from this great gift. I should have been doing it. These folks aren't even going to probably come and see my yard. They're not going to benefit from this fence. And so the voice inside of me, the ego piece, was like, Natalie, you did not earn this fence. You did not do your work. You tried to orchestrate it, and it all fell apart. The more I sat with the spiritual process, the spiritual practice of you've done nothing wrong, I was able to see that old program running in the background of my head. I was able to see that I could let go of that. And so I don't know about you, but I bet you have some fences in your life. I bet you've tried to control them. Yeah. And I bet you've also seen the folly of that. I hope you have. So anyway, that's my funny story today about control this week. And it does not go without my notice that it's all about a fence. So, thank you. Thank you for being here today.